So you have a great product and you want to submit it to a company for interest, but you also want to protect it. Yeah, non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality agreements, they're one ways you can protect your product. But many companies that look at outside inventions often will not sign one. Why? And so how can you protect your product? Stick around, you'll find out. Hi everyone, I'm Alex Reed, the founder of InventInsight, an online platform that offers affordable and free courses, resources, and guidance for product development and licensing. And it's for anyone that's looking to bring their product to market. When it comes to protecting your product in the submission process, there's always been confusion regarding how NDAs work in the product licensing process. So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at how your confidential information, non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality agreements play out in the process of submitting your product. And we're also going to take a look in part 2 of provisional patent applications and how they can help in the process. So what I did is I pulled a 2-part lesson from our InventInsight course, Successfully Submitting Your Product to Companies for Interest. In this lesson, it's going to give you a very detailed look at the scenario and help you better understand the best practices for protecting your product in the process. Let's take a look at part 1. Training 5 is all about the submission process. And in Module 1, we're continuing to look at what you need to know before you even start the process. And here's what is so interesting. Our biggest fear as inventors is their biggest worry as a company. Inventors have fear that the company might steal or take their idea. And companies are worried that we're going to think they stole or took our idea. These are the 2 main forces at work here that influence the 2 main components of the submission process. So basically at the center of it all, you have confidential information. You want to submit your product to these companies, but you don't want them to take it, and you want the information to be confidential. And in order to make that confidential information stick, you're going to need a legal document of some sort that is a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement. Basically, a non-disclosure agreement and a confidentiality agreement are similar because the non-disclosure is of that confidential information, and they're referred to as NDAs. And these are the 2 key components at the center of everything you have to do about submitting your product to companies. And I think confidential information is probably one of the most confusing terms in this process. Now, there are many different types and reasons for both confidential information and NDAs. In the submission process, of course, we're referring to the disclosure of your product. Even still, most all NDAs will define the term what is considered in that NDA to be the confidential information. If your product is considered confidential information, and an NDA is one of the ways to protect it in order to show it to the companies. So that's what we're really going to be looking at here, is that dynamic. So let's take a look at how these 2 key parts influence and play out in the process of product submissions. I want you to keep in mind the main risks for the companies that look at outside product ideas. It's accepting that a confidential information comes with risks because they might be working on a similar product, or another inventor may have submitted a similar product. And these are the 2 main things that concern companies, not only about looking at outside product ideas, but mainly if that information is confidential, then that kind of puts more of a risk on the company. Let's take a look at some examples of non-disclosure agreements, how they relate to the confidential information that are from the industry. We're looking at the submission term. We're on a site called Human Gear, and we want to take a look at their product submission terms. They have an online product submission, so we're going to load that. This is their submission page, and you'll see it's a portal where you can actually just submit your product right here. But we want to take a look at their terms. Now, most online portals on websites will have terms that you can print out and read before you make a decision whether you want to submit with them or not. I went ahead and downloaded their submission terms, so let's bring those up. So first they're saying, yes, we are open to working with product developers and inventors who have credible products that fit our brand. There's that word brand again. The first section of this document is their terms and conditions. So let's take a look at that. Oh, before we do, I want to read this to you. This is pretty interesting. It's a little bit about their background and what type of products that they're willing to look at. But it says here, moreover, reviewing outside product submissions can get complicated if a company is already working on a similar concept. This is one of the reasons why many companies don't want to even speak with outside product developers or inventors, much less review their ideas. So that's kind of interesting. They come right out and say it. And then, of course, here's their non-confidentiality. Do not submit confidential information. And they're saying, as a product design company, Human Gear cannot promise to review product idea submissions in confidence. If you would like to keep your material confidential, please do not send them to us. So basically, they're coming right out and saying, we do not take confidential information. We're only going to review this product in a non-confidentiality situation. Now, in this section, intellectual property protection for your idea, they're giving you a hint that this is a suggestion if you really want to submit your product to them. So they're saying you should be aware that under the patent laws of the United States and most foreign countries, you may be able to protect your idea through applications for patents, trademarks, copyrights, or maintain an idea as a trade secret by protecting it from a non-confidential disclosure. Now, you're going to find this kind of language in a lot of these online submissions because they're basically saying, we're kind of leery of confidential information, but hey, did you know there's a layer of protection you can put on your product, and we're going to feel a lot more comfortable about looking at your product with that extra layer of protection. Now we're on OXO's website, and we're going to go down, scroll down to their inventor submission. We're going to load that up. And then this is interesting. They come right out and say it too. Basically, they're saying thank you for contacting OXO and expressing interest in submitting your idea for consideration by one of our product development teams. Every inventor submission received by OXO undergoes an evaluation to determine if it is a fit for their current product line, basically. Now, it says here, please review the following terms. Basically, what they're saying here, by submitting your idea, you agree to and acknowledge that it's OXO's policy to not sign NDAs. All right, and they're going to tell you why. OXO does not sign NDAs because of the potential conflict with OXO's own internal product development process and its long-standing relationships with design firms. And then here they're telling you what you can do about that. If you are wary about going forward without an NDA, we recommend you seek protection under the patent laws. And then they give you the link to that. This is a NDA that was signed, well, actually not even an NDA. This is pretty interesting. It's a non-confidentiality agreement that was sent over by a company that I was going to be submitting to. And but here's something that I thought was very interesting. Same thing, strictly non-confidential. Don't send us anything confidential. It goes on and on. But this I thought was interesting. Do not provide confidential information, but do give enough information to identify the idea. So you might describe it like, I have a bicycle pump that fits in one's hand and is powered by solar. And a little bit more information about the benefits of all of that. Not the features, but the benefits, why it's so great and all of that. And then if they think, you know what, this is worth getting a little deeper in and maybe signing a non-disclosure. That's what they're saying here. And some companies will tell you this, so I want you to be aware that you'll see this. Describe it, but don't give me all of the confidential part of the product. Here's another submission agreement that I got. And again, they come right out and say it. The business risk associated with confidential relationships and obligations of secrecy are too great for such and such a company to assume for the purpose of our preliminary evaluation of unsolicited ideas. This here, preliminary evaluation of unsolicited ideas, that's the crux of the submission process, is getting your product into the company for them to review it. Now, I will tell you, if a company is interested in your product, then yes, there's going to be all kinds of documents that they're going to be willing to sign. But for the preliminary evaluation, that is the risky part for them. If they're interested in a product, they'll be signing NDAs. They won't have any problem with that. But just for the preliminary evaluation, that's what makes the submission process so tricky. So as you can see from the language in some of the submission terms and NDAs that we just reviewed, it's that confidential information that seems to not only be in the center of everything, but also a sticking point for both the inventor and for the company. As we move forward, I want you to keep this in mind. If a company has a submission process but only reviews products on a non-confidential basis, do you think it means that they want to steal ideas or they're trying to protect their company? So keep that in mind. Sometimes these NDAs and submission terms look scary, but it's not necessarily about the company warning you in every which way that they want to steal your idea. It's more about, we really want to protect ourselves. So keep that in mind as we move on. In the first part of this lesson, we really took a good look at how confidential information and NDAs are structured throughout and are an important part of the submission process. But now I'd like to move forward into part 2 and talk more about an additional component, that other layer of protection, IP, that most of the companies were mentioning in their documents. So let's move on and take a look. See you in part 2. I hope you found part 1 of today's video helpful. You can find the link to part 2 down below. We also have a link to our course page. And please leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button and make sure to click on the bell to hear about any upcoming videos we post here on InventInsight YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.